Well, hello there. Welcome back to Leading Learning Moments. Today we're going to talk about the next tier in the pyramid, the PLC Commitment to Learning framework that I've developed to help grow your PLCs. We're going to talk about the first growth need today, which is common work. Common work is really important because it is really the fundamental day-to-day work of a PLC, but it also is the kind of the linchpin piece that really builds and develops the collective teacher efficacy on a campus within a team. And collective teacher efficacy is one of those concepts that is really beginning to gain a little bit of steam, becoming more important as we gather research about what are the most influential components that happen in a classroom that affect student learning. And in fact, Roger Goddard's research shows that collective teacher efficacy actually can overcome socioeconomic status in students in elementary, both in reading and in math. Also, John Hattie's research on visible learning, if you keep up with that, he has kind of put out his most updated list, and at the very top of that list, I'll put it up there for you to take a look at, collective teacher efficacy is now at the top of that list. You can see there it's at a 1.57, which is significant as an effect size because that's actually 3 times more influential than a good phonics program or the socioeconomic status of a student, which kind of leads back to what Goddard's research shows. And then also it can even have a greater impact than the home environment. So if we've got students coming to us from poverty or other challenging socioeconomic statuses, collective teacher efficacy can overcome that, and it's nearly 4 times more influential than even the very best school principal. Marzano's research also tells us that the most effective schools can produce results that nearly entirely overcome the backgrounds of students that attend there. And so we know then as teachers and as leaders that collective teacher efficacy can really begin to challenge sort of the struggles that we've seen in students throughout the years. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about collective teacher efficacy and common work as the key piece that helps grow PLCs. So common work is really about 2 things: what PLCs focus on, and then what they actually do. For what PLCs focus on, that is the kind of driven by what I like to call the 4 corollary questions. It's not what a term that I came up with. It's certainly from the work of the DeFores and others at Solution Tree. They kind of developed those 4 corollary questions, which are: what do we want students to know? How do we know when they know it? What do we do when they don't know it? And what do we do when they already do know it? Those are sort of the 4 questions that should focus our PLC time. I've always told teachers that I've worked with, if what you're doing in a PLC cannot be defined by one of those 4 questions, then really it should be out of a PLC. It shouldn't be part of what's happening during PLC time. It might be faculty meeting time, it might be grade level planning time or something else, but it's certainly not about professional learning and growing sort of the proficiencies and the expertise of the team during PLC time. So once you have kind of driven the focus home for your PLC and you know kind of what you need to be about, the shift of the rest of the work for the PLC goes towards what they work on. And what I like to do is focus on what I call the essentials. I'm going to put a slide up for you that helps you kind of see that. And what these essentials are is really kind of the common work that's pursued by the team. And a lot of times we might think of, well, PLCs are, what does a room look like, or what's on the tables before them, or what kind of dialogue is happening. But to me, the essentials goes deeper than that. To me, common work, it moves beyond, just establishing operational guidelines or procedures. It moves beyond looking at a team's effectiveness as some arbitrary level of collaboration or cooperation or even camaraderie. And it also goes a lot deeper than delegating responsibilities and coordinating the dissemination of lesson plans or planning guides, which oftentimes is too common a descriptor of what happens during PLC. So if you take a look at this chart here, what I suggest happen are these four things. That when the team comes together, they clarify those essential outcomes, and they recognize the levels of proficiency that they want to see out of students, so that they know that they're getting it, moving towards that mastery learning. They develop frequent and timely common formative assessments. That way they, again, are able to measure the student mastery. Then they work together on a routine basis to analyze those results and make sure that they're moving the entire student population that they're responsible for forward towards mastery learning. And then they develop those strategies for improving student learning, because that is really the essential of what common work is about. If they're focused on those four corollary questions, and then these four essentials drive the day-to-day things that happen in the PLC, then those PLCs are going to be much more inclined to be meeting the growth needs of the students, while also meeting the growth needs of the teachers and moving forward. If you need more information on this, I have a blog at Leading Learning Matters. The link will be there at the bottom of the video. It'll also pop up here in just a second on a slide. You can go over to my blog and read the article on this component of the framework. It'll also go into some more detail. I've got some ideas and tips that I always try to include in the blog. Some things as a leader that you can begin doing today if you want to sort of tackle this component of the framework and begin to address it on your campus or in your district. Next time, we're going to talk about the very last step or the last tier of this framework, which is cultivating learners, confident learners. And that's going to talk a little bit about how do we develop both the student and the teacher to be these highly effective learners on the campus. It's an essential piece to what we do. It kind of caps off the pyramid. And I like to look at it as we're going to take a look at this learning progression and systematic strategies. And what these two things do is help us to grow the needs of the students and the educators. And most importantly, it's going to shift students from focusing on studying hard and pursuing a grade to understanding what that success looks like and how they can use various performance data to understand how to do better every time. And then teachers, when they're in this culture of confident learning, they shift from focusing on covering material or standards to understanding the importance of collaboration with colleagues and students to best understand the student learning needs. We put all of that together and we kind of reach what Maslow talked about, which is, this notion of self-actualization and kind of thriving at a very high level. So that'll be next time we talk about the last tier of this framework. Thanks for joining me today. I hope that the content of this video was helpful to you. And again, feel free to go over to the blog post if you want to get even more details on how you can work on improving the common work aspect of PLCs on your campus. Thanks again and have a great day.